Hello, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr. I'm sorry for starting a little late, but I saw that Amber Heard video, and I'm like, I gotta put this on TikTok. I gotta put this in my show. It's so funny. So there's like a 10-minute video that the Today Show did. I did like watch through what they put. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, at least not on here. Maybe I don't know, get my sisters together or something and react to like the whole interview or something. But oh my gosh, this is it's a hilarious clip that I can't wait to show you. And I like did bust out laughing. I don't know how many times I'm going to keep busting out laughing, but when I first saw it, I just died. So I got to show you guys that and talk about it. I know everyone is talking about it, but this is a clip worth talking about it. Gosh darn it. Also wanted to talk about this clip from The View. The ladies on the show were, especially Sunny, they were talking about prospects for 2024. And Sunny let her opinion be known about Ron DeSantis, and everything she said about Ron DeSantis and hatred of him, she could have applied to Gavin Newsom, who she likes Gavin Newsom, though, because she thinks he's pretty to look at. So I want to talk about that kind of commentary because Sunny is just the worst. She's so angry and bitter, and I'm sure that, she's a professional woman. There's got to be like some intelligent aspects to her, but when people get so devoted to their ideology, they just can't think straight. They just can't do it. So I'm going to be talking about that. Also, there was I believe the Washington Examiner has audio backup files. I guess Hunter recorded himself bragging about how much influence he has over his dad and how much influence he'd have if his dad became the president. So I guess that stuff was technically maybe deleted, but they were able to recover it and stuff. And so there's an audio recording of it. So I want to go through a little bit of that today because there's all these people like, oh, what does it matter? It's Joe. He's not, Hunter's not running for president. It's just Joe. And it's like, well, we've seen how they've intertwined their finances, how Joe Biden has profited off of his son and his son has profited off of him. There's that relationship. But Hunter is saying that he has actual influence, that if it's important to him, that it'll become important to his father. And Joe Biden has said, Hunter has talked about how his dad respects him and he thinks he's intelligent and all this other kind of stuff. And I just thought that was nice stuff that like a father says about their kid. Now, if my son was a crackhead, or let's say I don't have any kids, so let's say if my dad raised any crackheads, he probably wouldn't be bragging about, how that they're like the smartest guy in the room or something like that, So there's some parents who are more honest than everybody else. Now, my dad did not raise any crackheads. It's just, not a thing that is under his belt like Joe here, but Joe's like, yeah, Hunter's great. He's one of the smartest people I know, etc. And so Hunter appears to believe that that's the sort of feeling that his dad has for him, and so he's bragging about how much influence that he would have over his father in the event that he became president. And obviously, Hunter is president, and we've talked a few times about how Hunter should be in jail or at least have a fine from like at least lying on his ATF form. That's like a clear-cut thing that he's done. A clear-cut thing that he has done. There's plenty of evidence, like an admission from his own book and the form itself. And And Biden's big thing right now is gun control, yet there's no movement on that. So, I mean, they are very interwoven, but it's curious and interesting all the stuff that's just popped up. Man, it's just crazy how they really suppress the laptop and how more stuff is just coming out and from it, even stuff more stuff than what we originally thought, and how much they're able to recover. And it's amazing the kind of stuff that people will record themselves doing, including like his weird sex tapes and other stuff like that. His He had a real problem, and it's amazing that there's people who feel so entitled to power that they can do just all kinds of crazy stuff and get away with it. Like Nancy Pelosi's husband, did you guys hear that he like got arrested for DUI, which I guess they like dropped the charges? Not surprised, but it's like, how can you do that knowing that your wife is the speaker of the house? Like, what is wrong with you people? But I guess when you expect that things will just be dropped and you won't have to face any sort of consequences, then hey, why not just go around and act a fool? It's really, really insane. But those are the sort of things we're going to be talking about today. Thank you for people watching. I see you guys in the comments. Thanks for watching live. Everybody who watches back later when you're home from work and etc., sitting on the couch making some food. I made some enchiladas last night. I did a TikTok tutorial. Perhaps I'll post it on my black tea page, because people ask about my enchiladas. They're always very yummy. My sister loves them. Anyway, before we jump into it, I encourage you guys to go back to news.com, check out different articles that I've dropped on the website. Like I wrote a piece yesterday that had dropped about how Fox News was promoting just straight up propaganda, as far as like about a child who's now 14, but when she was, well, before she could even talk, her mother's like, "Oh, my daughter's really a boy," and then the daughter started the transformation at 5, and they started transitioning, and it's just a really, really remarkable piece that Fox does not push back on at all, and something that you would expect to find on really, really left wing stuff. So it's about that, and also the backlash that's followed, particularly from the crew at Daily Wire is really, really upset about it. But it is a really remarkable story. Out of all the stories you could tell with people and their transitions and stuff, somewhat promoting people who said that their child knew, you know, before they could even talk was it's nutty, guys. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say about it. You can check out different merch that I have on the website, like the "I am not the victim you're looking for," which I made after I was inspired by Gina Carano after they tried to cancel her. Which, by the way, the movie "A Terror on the Prairie" does premiere tonight. So good for her. Absolutely good for her. I was very, very happy to hear the Daily Wire was going to make a film with her. The quality looks really good. We'll have to see if it actually comes together and is nice and stuff. But I'm very happy that when she decided to just stick to herself, not really trying to make a big statement, but just wanted to um just be an individual, Disney came down hard at her, um, defamed her character, fired her, just lied on her to justify it. And Daily Wire was like, you know what, we're gonna do something with you. And then people were like, it's Daily Wire though, what can they do? And then they showed that they were really interested in really getting in the business of film. They've had a lot of success with um, Matt Walsh's documentary. The Shut In movie was pretty good. Not my typical Juge, but it was pretty good. The Hyperion movie was all right. Wasn't my favorite style. Kind of had like a Wes Anderson sort of feel, kind of. It's just not my typical thing, but it was a fine film. But Gina's film, the quality and everything looks really good. So I'm interested to see how it is. I will be honest about my opinion about it, but I'm glad that she got to make something that she loved and people were willing to reach out and support her in her time of need. Which I've written plenty about Gina Carano on my website and done videos on. If you go look in the past with different stuff, if you want to keep up with what happened there, but also have like stuff like the "My Mind and My Business" shirt. Also got like the Black tea mug. You guys can check that out on the website. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/support, whether it's $5, $10, $20, or more. Everything that you guys do to support really, really does help. I also want to thank Brian and Michigan Pack. I'm in their studio. If I say something that triggers you, I don't care. They don't care. No one cares, guys. I'm just using the space. And I'm glad that they like to uplift conservative voices like my own. Before I jump into the news of the day, I do have a meme to share. From right, no, it's not Right to Bear Memes. It's a different guy, but the meme majority. The new Pride flag just dropped, and if you look, it's got all of these different companies on there. Which is interesting because at first, of course, you get the Pride flag, and now this is like the Progress flag, which because just having the Pride flag wasn't enough. They had to include the trans, but then also like the Black and the brown because they needed it to have the BIPOC stuff in there. There was an article trending the other day about white gay privilege, and my brother started reading it to me a little bit, but I was just like shaking my heads. And I'm like, why do they hate white people so much? You can't even just be a gay white person. You're in the club of a marginalized person, and they still hate your guts. I'm like, why do they hate white people so much, and why do they want brown people to be gay so bad? It's puzzling. It's really interesting. I don't like it's like you need to hate on the white people because it's trendy, but you need the black people because you think they make it trendy, like make things trendy. Like that scene in The Office when Dwight was trying to make a gym and he's like he had to get Daryl in there because he's like, you have to make something popular, you get the black people to be in there first, and then when the black people are part of it, then you kick them out. He said something like that. So I it's just weird. But anyway, you have all these companies that are just so invested into Pride Month, and it's just a, I don't know, marketing ploy tactic and stuff. Man, Uber, Postmates did a video really, really gross, and they were like suggesting different foods you can eat to help you before you have like anal sex and other stuff. And it's really bizarre. And like Uber Eats like bought Postmates and stuff. It's a big American company. And to see just how far everything's fallen down this rabbit hole is really troubling. I was going to do this episode, and maybe tomorrow will be the focus, but I was going to mention just how so much about the Pride Month is really about perversion. And I'm not saying like if you fall under the pride flag or something, then I'm not trying to diss you here in that way. But I know a lot of people who are trans and gay who do not want to associate with the community, who do not want to associate with the month and all the kind of crazy stuff that goes on. Like last year there was an article from the Washington Post that said why we need kink and your kids need to see it at the pride parades. It was really perverse. Christina Aguilera, which I will not show you this picture, maybe I'll show you the blurry one tomorrow, that she put on her Instagram, but she performed at like a pride event that was advertised as family friendly, and she was wearing some kind of armor. It was green. It kind of looked like it meant to be the Hulk, but then it had like a green like penis sticking out from the bottom of it. So you bring your kids there to this event. It claims it's family friendly, and a worldwide superstar, which Christina's had some like, I mean, she has a song called Dirty. I mean, and she's had some more edgier kind of music throughout the years, but she has a green penis sticking out from the bottom of her stuff, and that's kind of weird because she doesn't have a penis at all. So she's making quite the statement by making a green one and slamming one on her, and performing. And then she had enough, someone, I don't know if she runs her Instagram page, but someone had enough sense to blurt it out on Instagram. But the people who saw it live got to see it live in action. So there's just a lot of weird things. There's been a lot of weird videos that have gone around from different Pride stuff. I talked yesterday. I saw one, and there was like a boy trying to avert his eyes, and his mom, like, or mom or some adult female with him, like, forced him to look, and it's just really strange. It's really, really strange the route all this has taken, and the celebration of the perverse. And there's a lot of people who just want to be left alone. And I genuinely believe there's a lot of people who pitch that and they just want to be left alone, and they want to be like everyone else. They want to be like everyone else. And that was everything that they fought for. But there's always these folks who have an ulterior motives and different agendas. And the agenda is to normalize a lot of just sexual perversion, period. And that's why so much people want to talk about it in schools. That's where you got all the weird drag queen shows that they're having kids to. There was a viral video of someone doing like burlesque and they were topless or something, or maybe they're just a stripper. I don't know, but a kid was there and putting money in the panties of the performer waitress person. And then whoever put on Instagram was like, "I'm so proud. Thank you so much for teaching my kids that there's nothing wrong with their bodies." And it's like, okay, but there's nothing wrong with some modesty and some mystery and keeping the innocence of your children. But if you watch the "What Is a Woman" documentary from the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh, they briefly mentioned, and perhaps this is the crime of it, is that it was so briefly mentioned. But there's other documentaries about Arthur Kinsey, and how he had a goal to really destigmatize, like, I guess, the sexual perversion of America. He didn't like the sort of modest appeal that people had. He didn't like Judeo-Christian values, and he wanted to have this idea introduced into the world that children are always sexual. And he had he had pedophiles submit stuff, and like part of his like theory in his book that he released included a table with different like times of kids having like orgasms and stuff. And you might be saying, that's really weird. How'd you get that? Well, he got it from some kind of pedophile who worked for the government and was just like, I think he was like he worked on some land or monitoring land or something. So as he traveled, he would sexually assault children, and he kept the log. And did this person go to jail? No, I don't believe so. Because Kinsey was like, why would I give this person up? And then they have other files in their institute to this day with like pedophile kind of stuff in there, but they're like, we would rather destroy our files than give them up to Congress or the police or anyone like that. So and Kinsey, by the way, Liam Neeson played a movie. It was in a movie about him, and they like didn't mention all this weird stuff. So I kind of like, it was a 90-minute documentary, and Matt Walsh did a good job, and I like the film. But people need to know more about this long game to really, really sexualize and pervert everyone, including your little itty bitty babies. And so the stuff that we see today, I think, is just a continuation of that. And it doesn't, like, people think that privacy, that things that adults do, like, there was a huge argument one day with Matt Walsh and a lot of people, including like really libertarians, because he was talking about how there need to be more locks and safeguards with stuff about like Pornhub, because when kids get exposed to porn, they're like 9, 10, 11 years old. Like, those are the average ages of people who kind of start getting addicted to this stuff. And they're like, no, if you can't control your kids, if you can't watch your kids, it's your problem, but these adults want to do this. And it's like, but there's on online stuff that gets uploaded with kids on it. There's people who are abused on that stuff, but kids can't consent to that stuff. And you can be the best parent in the world, but that doesn't mean someone else won't expose them to it. So if you are an adult and you want to look at that stuff. He's like, you could at least have some more verification, but they didn't want that because that would basically kind of shut down the stuff. And I think things like that shouldn't be like readily available for everyone. Just my opinion. But it hurts other folks down the line, including our children and the innocence of kids. But some people are so perverse and addicted to it that ultimately they don't care. So I'm concerned about our society, certainly. And the more I see, I don't know, it just kind of seems more like Sodom and Gomorrah. And I didn't mean to go down this road. 'Cause I have a lot of notes and things I unfortunately want to show you that I'm just not quite ready for today. So yeah, I guess we'll do that maybe tomorrow. Anyway, I want to show you this clip of Amber Heard before we go into the View thing, and I'm just going to show the clip, and maybe I'll do like a whole reaction to the interview again. Maybe I'll like have a few of my sisters on because they were really more following it than I was actually. But this is just funny and bizarre.
Closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. I'm the performer. I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
Oh, yes, Amber, you are confused. So confused. So, here's a question for Amber Heard, man. This does she think that people believed that Johnny Depp actually had scissor hands? Is that what she thinks? Is that what she thinks we all thought when we saw Edward Scissor's hands? Is that what she believes happened? Cause that's oh boy. Is that what she thinks? I have a sister who loves Edward Scissor's hands, and I don't know why, because she acts like she's not that weird, and that's definitely one of there's weird, films from that Johnny Depp has done. He's done a lot of iconic characters, but says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for hands. Who was convinced that Edward Scissorhands wasn't a movie? Who was convinced that Johnny Depp cut off his hands or whatever and lived his life with scissors for hands, longing to have real hands? He was like a robot or something, right? He wasn't even like human or something. Like it was a weird, quirky, interesting film, and it was just a film. So how is that a good comeback at all? And the least bit. It doesn't make any sense why you would say something like. And the funny thing is, I know she's paid like hand over fist, probably for this team to help her with her press, and she like fired her PR team in the midst of the trial, and they worked so hard, and they've got all these. Then you saw all these articles popping up to help Amber Heard that obviously didn't make sense, like the Vogue argue, like we just need to believe Amber Heard and all these other dumb articles. And it's like, dude, we can listen to her testimonies. We hear things that aren't making sense. She doesn't look credible. Johnny's team is just doing a much better job than her team. Like, you can't just make us unsee all this stuff because you wrote an article. And then you have her who gets up and looks ridiculous. First of all, she looks ridiculous just kind of sitting there. She's just a really bad performer. And I can't think of. I know I've seen Amber Heard and stuff other than Aquaman. Anybody could have played that role, by the way. But of Mira. And to No one believed that Edward Scissorhands actually had scissors for hands. It's just a character, which is funny because she also says, we talked a little bit about yesterday, we played the clip where she said that the jury, like everybody, they didn't believe her, but they believed Johnny. He's like, well, he's a beloved character. And I'm like, that is a weird way to talk about your husband, to just refer to them as a character as if he's not a human being. But and then to hear her say, like, well, she convinced the world that he had scissors for hands. It's like, no, people could see that he's an actual human being, and they saw humanity in him, and they saw the worst of humanity in her. They saw Johnny, who's a flawed human being, and he was, they read his text messages and they did not say the nicest things. And in there, and he'd kind of laugh or whatever, and he'd you know, poke fun or whatever, and had some, was kind of trolling her team a bit. So um he's, you know, people saw him as a more kind of complex individual, but they also did see his weakness when he described how you had to beg for his medication while he's like doing his drugs and stuff. People know that he's had all these issues and these problems, so no one thought he was some kind of angel. But as Johnny Depp's team said, the reason why Amber lost or people didn't believe her is because she just took no accountability. And if you look further in this interview, which they did post it, which is on their I just watched like a 9-minute video on Twitter. She didn't really take accountability. I mean, she said she did some awful, terrible things in her marriage that, you know, she didn't like really recognize herself for. But when they went through like the different recordings and the messages, she's like, well, that's just not in context. And they're like reading it to her, and she still doesn't want to take accountability for admitting that she would hit him. And and people got to see that on the stand. She's not in a controlled environment like in this interview, and then she still says blatantly stupid things like that. If she could say blatantly stupid things like this after being prepped by her PR team, how could she not see that it was obvious that she was going to lose her case? And still, it wasn't an easy case for Johnny's team to win, but it's not so fathomable. Fathomable, still not saying it right, but you know what I'm trying to say, that she would lose if this is the best she has. Oh, Johnny, he convinced people he got scissors for hands. So I'm is she still on cocaine or whatever she was on? Like, it's so stupid. And she said other stupid things. Like, she should have never went to trial, man. She should have did anything possible to try to settle, man. She said something about, someone said something about dates or calendars, and she's like, I'm not a mathematician or something. That happened pretty early on. And then they asked her about money, and she said, well, I pledged to give the money. And they're like, but you didn't donate. And then she's like, well, donate and pledge, I consider that to be the same thing. And they're like, no, baby. Pledge and donate is not the same thing. So I hope you had a good laugh. That's all I'm gonna do today about the Amber Heard thing. There's more that they posted, and I guess there will be more that they will post, but maybe I'll have a different reaction video to it. I want to talk about The View. These ladies from The View, man. Sunny is like the worst. Really, really awful. Joy is bad. Whoopi's not great. But Sunny, man, because I feel like she's purposely like, I'm caught between how much how much must it be performative and how much is just like the ideology has choked all of the oxygen out of like the brain, and there's no blood. It's just dying on the table. I don't know. I don't know what that balance is, but let's listen to them talk about 2024 potentials.
need somebody who can get the country back in line.
Yeah.
Because if you can name me a Republican who has a shot to do that, that's what I'm more interested in, because
I think it'll be
DeSantis. I hope it's not DeSantis over in Florida, because I think he's a fascist. DeSantis. I think he handled COVID miserably. I think he's a fascist and a bigot. But
those are his good points.
Those are his good points. Exactly. Bing,
Don't
bing.
hold back, Sonny.
Bing, bing. And I hate this. I hate this talk about. I think people saying that he's too old. I mean, if the former, twice impeached, disgraced president thinks he's such a young spring chicken. I mean, he's going to be 78 when Joe Biden is 81. And so I don't like this ageism argument. But I will say,
true.
yeah.
So I want to. I really want, when I first saw her talk about Ron DeSantis, that's what really drove me up a wall. And all the stuff that she said about Ron DeSantis is ridiculous. She's called him a bigot and a fascist, but she's going to compliment someone else. But I just didn't want to do note right here about the age thing. That's actually a valid point. So we'll go back to that.
Biden, when he was here, I asked him, he works out every day.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump does. Take a look.
Yeah, I mean, take a look. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think there are plenty of, Democrats that have tons of verve and energy. I mean, I like Gavin Newsom because he's really pretty to look at, and I think he does a great job in California. I like Kamala.
Okay, so I'm going to rant about this more in a second, but Gavin Newsom, she thinks that Ron DeSantis is a fascist, but she likes Gavin Newsom because he's pretty to look at. Gavin Newsom. California and Florida were run very differently, and I would say that Florida was successful and California was not. And if anyone was a fascist between the two of them, it was the one that she thinks is so pretty to look at. So we'll finish this out. She says more dumb stuff, and then we'll break all this down.
Kamala and Pete Buttigieg
I love Pete
ticket.
Buttigieg.
I think that looks great.
You think they could win, really?
Well, I would vote for them.
Of course,
I hope this country is ready for something like that. I think the brain power alone would just obliterate Trump or
I would just love to see us.
Okay. Sunny. Okay, so let's talk. Ron DeSantis was someone who was driven by the data. California was not driven by the data. They were driven by fear and opportunity. And Gavin Newsom himself, he was even like, yeah, we can take this time and get some agendas done. That's what he said and other people said, but he definitely did say it. California is one of the states where they let nursing home people intermingle with COVID positive patients. And I don't know why anyone would do that, because it was always evident that the elderly were at more risk than everyone else, that the older you are, the more likely you are to die. That if you have comorbidities, you're more likely to, have complications with COVID. And that it was something that if you're younger and healthy, that, maybe you could catch it, maybe you won't be able to smell a couple days, but you're most likely not going to die. So instead of governing with those things in mind and protecting the most vulnerable, you had a couple states, and my state, Michigan, was one of those states that actually intermingled the elderly with COVID. And I don't know why any sane person would do that. And the only reasons I can think of, honestly, are malicious, but that it's so sinister. Why would you do that? I don't understand. So how can you be that stupid? But how? How is it possible? But anyway, he was one of the governors that did that. He had a lot of lockdown measures and policies that were awful and unfair. Do you guys remember when they were filling up skate parks with sand? Do you remember when I mean, they had churches locked down, in which they had a couple lawsuits and stuff in California about different stuff. Of restaurants, how they treated the restaurants was really crazy, and haircuts and all kinds of stuff. But Gavin Newsom got caught up in a couple different scandals, but particularly he went and hung out maskless at an event at like the French Laundry and with like lobbyist friends and whatever, chilling, hanging out, and it was indoors, and they were, having truffles and wine and all that stuff, while other people were losing their businesses. So Gavin Newsom definitely behaved poorly during the pandemic, and was a fascist. So I don't understand how you can say those things about Ron DeSantis with any ounce of honesty, which I don't think this woman put. Maybe all the agenda just choked it out, and not be like, oh, we can't do Gavin Newsom because he's a fascist. And when he was having his recall with Larry Elder, magically, they started to relax on some of the lockdown stuff, and some of the critics were like, sir, this seems a little suspicious, and he's like, it's stupid. Let's debunk it now. That's not why. It's not political, whatever. But after Gavin Newsom was not recalled, they decided to start instituting some more sort of lockdown measures that happened in like I think LA and some other places, like immediately after like the recall was over. So it kind of seemed political to me. And then California had like high compliance, but they still decided to really, really push mandates with masks and mandates with the jab and other things like that. Over like 25%. So of their state. So it's just really insane. It's really, really crazy. But he's pretty to look at. He's not yours. What does that matter? And by the way, he's not that pretty to look at. I mean, he's not like he's all right for a politician, which Ron DeSantis, you get like a younger, he's not bad looking. He got a younger photo that's quite attractive. But they're not yours, so what does it matter? And they're not in that kind of like super status of like fine when it's like, yeah, I could go watch a film because you look good. It's not like Jensen Ackles, like Supernatural's like, yeah, I'll watch one of your bad films because you're in it. Like, or something like that. Chris Hemsworth, I used to watch wrestling for The Rock. None of them are at that level. And it's certainly not a let me vote you in to be my governor and president. No, like none of these people are that fine. None of them. None of them. I want to show you this video from the pandemic of a woman who owned a restaurant. This went very viral at the time. But I just want to remind people, if they're trying to memory hole all this stuff, what it was like to live under the thumb of Gavin Newsom.
So this is my place, the Pineapple Hill Grill and Saloon. If you go to my page, you can see all the work I did for outdoor dining, for tables being 7 feet apart. And I come in today because I'm organizing a protest, and I came in to get stuff for that. And I walk into my parking lot, and obviously Mayor Garcetti has approved this. Has approved this being set up for a movie company. I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here. And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this. tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me, as a slap in my face, that's safe. This is safe. 50 feet away. This is dangerous. Mayor Garcetti and Gavin Newsom is responsible for every single person that doesn't have unemployment, that does not have a job, and all the businesses that are going under. And we need your help. We need somebody to do something about this.
Yeah, so she went super viral during the time of the pandemic. So we did not just forget. Maybe they're hoping everyone forgets, and maybe too many people did. But it seems like people are really trying to memory hole the pandemic. Like I did a video, and it was about abortion, but there was just like a punchline at the, and it was about bodily autonomy or something. And then it was just like, oh, it was like, well, going back with different viewpoints, and then the pro-choice person was like, we just, I just respect your decisions or something like that. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, I'm vaccinated. And then it like zoomed in the person's face, and they started screaming. And so then someone like replied to the video, and they're like, no one is like that. And I was like, are you serious? Like people were wishing death threats. People were like, I'll see you in the funeral home. There were people who like were on transplant lists, and they were being denied transplants because they wouldn't get the COVID vaccine. There are people who are like, we need to deny care to people who won't get vaccinated. Not specifically because of COVID. They just thought they shouldn't get care at all. Like it went really crazy. Really, really crazy. But people were hysterical, calling grandma killers, all kinds of other stuff. Even after people found out that even if you're vaccinated, you can still pass COVID. Which, by the way, there was an interesting report the CBS told maybe I saw it 2 days ago, I think. And if you got the jab and the booster, you're catching COVID. Like it looked like it was about twice as much as people who just initially just got the one jab. And so they didn't understand why. So they had an expert on trying to hypothesize, and like, well, these people who are jabbed, they believe that life is kind of normal, so they take more risks. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Because I think people who are double jabbed are probably the people who are paranoid enough to maybe even still be wearing their mask. And then there's a lot of people not wearing their masks anymore, but I think there's a lot of people double jabbed out there who are just still probably a little more cautious than the folks who just got the one jab. I don't think that theory holds up at all in the least, but they didn't know how to explain it. Could it, I guess it could always maybe be something about the vaccine itself, and doing something to you or to your response system to when you are exposed to COVID or whatever. But I don't know. But they didn't have the answer. But I just thought it was interesting. Just wanted to share. So for Sunny to think that Gavin Newsom is just so pretty, but Ron DeSantis is a fascist is just crazy. Now, maybe she thinks Ron DeSantis is a fascist because he's sticking up to Disney and all their secret, not so secret evil agendas for your kids, or that he doesn't believe that teachers should be teaching, sexual orientation stuff to your kids who are 5 and 6 and 7. And he respects parental rights. Maybe she thinks those things make him a fascist. I'm pretty sure those are the reasons why she's calling him a bigot. But you know what else is bigotry, Sonny? Bigotry is just you being able to not tolerate other people. And Sonny has said some really, really crazy things in the past couple of weeks that I would definitely call Sonny a bigot at this point. And she tries to just be like, I don't understand you Republicans, but she's so rude, and she'll have like someone trying to explain their position sitting right next to her and just still spew evil talking points that she's been trained to say, just like an NPC. So that's just really crazy. Gavin Newsom, to love Gavin Newsom, to give him a pass because she thinks he's just attractive, and hate Ron DeSantis because he's a bigot and a fascist, and she didn't like how he handled COVID and thought it was disastrous. Like, people were fleeing his state. AOC ended up in that state. My governor ended up in that state. People will go to Florida to relax and get away, and then go back to their own state, and then keep with their draconian lockdown measures and so on. So, I mean, people call it the free state of Florida now. I mean, so she's just a wackadoodle. And then when he was actually like administering like the jab to folks, and they were giving it to the elderly and stuff, like, he's just prioritizing the elderly because they vote red, and there's a lot. How about they're the most vulnerable? How about they're very vulnerable and they need this more than everyone else? And they tried to do hit piece after hit piece, and they promoted people who leaked information and just lied and all kinds of other stuff. And he's still standing, and their hatred of him will continue to propel him as far as like alternatives to Trump. He is a front runner. And who knows, by 2024, he may be the front runner. Maybe, I know Trump is definitely running right now. We'll see what happens. It's still a very long way, but they're crazy. Now, her suggestions for president instead, a Pete Buttigieg and a Kamala Harris ticket, and she's like, the intelligence that they have. I don't have a clip pulled up, but please look up what Kamala Harris said about the passage of time. She's not a wise woman. She got to places, right? She got to places by doing particular things, if you catch my drift. And became a senator, and got to this place of vice president, which, let's be honest, she's a diversity hire, which the Biden administration has a lot of diversity hires, and then they're not all working too well for everyone. The press secretary is trash. Jen Psaki was much better, though I didn't like Jen, but the current one is not good. I don't care how gay she is, and I don't care how immigrant she is, and I don't care how dark her skin is. She's not very good at her job. Their diversity hire with the assistant health secretary, they picked the worst possible person you could have with that. And then the White House put out stuff about how if you love your kids, you'll let them give puberty blockers and stuff. So we're in a very weird place. But Kamala Harris is a diversity hire, and I posted just a snippet of an article about how Kamala Harris, the DNC, had a fundraiser, and she was like the headliner, and they had to move it, which it's usually in August, but they wanted to have it a little bit earlier, but they couldn't sell enough tickets at the time, so they're moving it. And Kamala Harris she couldn't do anything by herself in the primaries, and she dropped out before she got utterly embarrassed in her own home state. And she's not gonna be able to carry a whole ticket by herself and or be the front runner in the ticket. And if they think that Pete Buttigieg is going to be that person who's going to make the difference, I don't think so. And for some reason, Pete could not do anything with Black folks, and I don't know. That's a bad ticket. That is a really bad ticket. And I think one of the main reasons, and I guess he probably made deals with a lot of people who were running against him and stuff. Biden did, to ultimately get their backing, their support. But I think they wanted to give Pete, who wasn't a great mayor, a position in the White House, because they were hoping to elevate him, because they want him to be presidential material, and he's just not. I understand that people liked him in the big span of everyone who was running. I'm sorry that they didn't have a good field of folks. They had people that they could have ran that would have been more appealing than Biden, but Pete and Kamala are not it. So bad suggestions. They better find somebody else. And there's got to be like some mayors or somebody. If the mayor of New York wasn't, he's disappointing right now, man. Really disappointing. If he could just lead better than what he's doing now, people would he could probably have a high rise profile, but at this rate, I don't think so. But we'll see what happens for them. But it ain't gonna be Pete and Kamala. But I will address her comment about Biden being old versus Trump being old. I do think that is actually a valid point, and I think if people are going to talk about how old Biden is, and you know, Trump's up there too, guys. And if we're going to just let all these like super old people, they are eyeing Hillary Clinton very hard. I'm telling you that I've suspected it. She said it before, I think, that she didn't want to, or was kind of done, but then she is doing these sort of tours. She did like the master class, and her husband did the master class, Bill Clinton, and I'm like, it looks like they're trying to kind of revitalize their image, and I don't think they think that there's anyone that they have that can go the distance. So I think they're going to really try to run her again, especially if they feel like Trump's going to try to run again. Why not have Hillary run again? Um, and there's a lot of people who's run for president and failed. I mean, Biden, has run a couple times. So that's a heck of a thing to have the nomination and like lose the actual election night. But when people feel entitled to power, they will shoot their shot, man. So I really think that she's going to go for it. But they mentioned that Biden is physically, they think he's physically healthier because he works out and stuff compared to like Trump, because Trump's a little thicker. But Biden is not there like with all of his mental capacities. He's definitely obviously not as sharp as he was like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or whatever. And it's only going to decline, continue to decline. And we will see if he makes out his full 4 years, but I think it's pretty obvious. And I do not think a lot of people will be like, he's senile, he has Alzheimer's, he has blah, blah, blah. I don't think he's as like not there as other people on the right will try to claim. But I do think there's times when things are concerning with Joe. And I do think it's suspicious how much time he's like not available, and like particularly for the price, he's gone a very long time without having some kind of major sit down with like New York Times or somebody. Like, it doesn't have to be somebody on Fox or something like that, just like a traditional sort of newspaper person. He hasn't done that in a long time. He'll go on Jimmy Kimmel or something like that and have him kiss his butt and then complain about the press and how they're not being nice to him. But he's not quite all there. I think they're really, really trying to protect him. And Biden has said some gas and some crazy things in the past, but I think it's bigger than that. I think the amount of lids like they would have was always weird and suspicious. During the campaign trail after Ginsburg passed, and they still had a lid or whatever, and didn't like come out and address it. I'm like, something is wrong. This is strange. Like, this is a very big thing that has happened, and like they're not immediately coming out with statements and other stuff like that. Maybe they needed some. You could say, make the case they needed some time to get something kind of together, but it was just very strange. And then they were having a lot of lids anyway, so I think I think that there's a lot that we just don't know. I think he has his hands on the pulse of things more than than a lot of people give credit for. I think he's driving a lot more agenda than a lot of people will give credit for. But he definitely should not run again. I mean, and then there's also the fact that the world is like on fire. Like, America is not doing well. He has all the makings of a one-term president. You don't even have to like Trump. They had to like bring the world to a grinding halt and do every sort of dirty trick in the book to shift things in Biden's favor. I don't think you can do a repeat with that. I don't think you can do a repeat. And we got bear markets. We're like going into the recession. they don't have a handle on how to fix things. Jennifer Granholm, like the gas is super high. I posted a video with the other day, and it showed like the gas prices of where I like am, you know, and people are like, where is that at? Where is it? I'm like, it's in Michigan. Someone's like, let me know because I'm scared to travel and I don't want to hit that gas station like it's in Michigan. And but even like in southern states, like it's really high, like four something, you know, like 4.6, people telling me 4.60, 4.70 and stuff. And so that's quite cheaper than where I'm right now, but that's really, really high down there still. I'm pretty sure I haven't filled my tank in a minute, but I put $50 in and had a little bit of gas, and I'm at like a little more than half a tank. And I'm just like, it's like at $100, I guess, to fill the car. And when I went to March for Life this year, it was in January. It was like $50 to fill the tank, and that was like, oh, $50 fill the tank, and you know, we're at twice as much, and it's been half a year. That is hard for Americans. Joe Biden is, and they don't have a plan to fix it. There's all these articles about Biden and his image, and people are so worried about their messaging on the economy. There was a report I saw on Twitter. See if we can find it real quick. But they were like, there's going to be 3 like people from the White House to go meet on Capitol Hill to like kind of brainstorm about what they're going to do as far as the messaging. Yeah, okay. Pat Ward, Fox confirms 3 White House officials will be heading to the Hill on Thursday to discuss messaging on the economy with the full House Dems caucus. The meeting is focused on message strategy on the economy, fighting inflation, and reducing cost for the American people. And so at some point in time, like I know like messaging is so important, but the message will come together if people see the change. Like the total focus needs to be on how to fix these things. But it seems like they really, really don't know how to do that. And at first they were like denying that it was even happening. Then they were like, well, it's just going to be short term. You know, remember last summer was like transitory. And apparently in last December, people were saying that gas was going to be under $3. Just wait. And none of that happened. And there's a lot of people wondering what they're going to do. They don't know how they're going to even drive to point A to B. And I wonder what's going to happen when they don't know how they're going to put food on the table. So we're getting to that point for a lot of Americans. And Joe Biden, if we're going to talk about 2024, I don't think Biden's age is his worst problem. I think it's the fact that he's a trash president and it's not getting any better. The thing that Joe Biden had going for him was his empathy, and people kind of saw through that a bit with the Afghanistan thing, how he's snapping at people, and when other people's children had been killed on his watch, he was looking at his watch. So he doesn't really have that same kind of appeal. Last thing I'm going to briefly mention, there are audio recordings of Hunter Biden talking about how much influence that he has on his father. So that is pretty interesting. And people kept saying that Joe Biden being president, well, it doesn't matter what happens with Hunter because it's Hunter. And they're different people, obviously. But if Hunter's saying that he actually has influence on his father, I think that matters. So the Washington Examiner had it, and they actually have the audio. You can go listen to it. Listen to a bit of it. Hunter Biden recorded himself boasting that his father will adopt political positions at his command. Footage obtained from a copy of his abandoned laptop shows. He'll talk about anything. Can you imagine all this stuff being on your laptop and it gets and you leave it? And this is he's like lost like 3, by the way. It's again, you got to remember he's a crackhead, so stuff happens, I guess. But bro, to have all this stuff and everybody to just see it is crazy, just absolutely crazy. He'll talk about anything that I want him to do that he believes in, Biden said in reference to his father, Joe Biden, in the December 3rd, 2018 recording. If I say it's important to me, then he will work a way in which to make it a part of his platform. My dad respects me more than he respects anyone in the world, and I know that to be certain. So it's not going to be about whether it affects his politics. That's a heck of a thing if that's true. I mean, he could just be saying that braggadociously, but I don't care if it is your kid. If all the kind of stuff that he's been in his life, that's not the kind of person that I think you should respect more than anybody else. I don't care if you are a parent. All those fears you think that I have of people not liking me or that I don't love myself, I don't fear that. You know why I don't fear that? Because the man I most admire in the world that God to me thinks I'm a god. Hunter Biden added in the 77-minute recording, which was taped about 5 months before Joe Biden launched his successful 2020 presidential campaign in late April 2019. And my brother did too. And the three of us, it was literally, I had the support to know I can do anything. The recording was located on a copy of Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop with a password protected backup of his iPhone X10 Konstantinos Gus Dimitrioulos, a cyber forensic expert commissioned by the Washington Examiner, located the password during his examination of the hard drive. In the recording, Hunter Biden bragged to his friend, British artist Filippo Horan, that he was better than anybody you know, as the pair discussed matters ranging from Joe Biden's presidential aspirations, Hunter Biden struggling with his addiction, an art project the two of them were working on together, and philosophical musings on how to live a fulfilling life. Everyone thinks it talks about how you can be as good as your dad. I'm better than my dad, Hunter Biden said. You know why I'm better than my dad? Because my dad tells me I'm better than him since I was 2 years old. The conversation was taped in a house in Plum Island, Massachusetts, amid the throes of Hunter Biden's addiction to crack cocaine. Have you ever thought about this? Maybe this is the greatest thing that bleeping ever happened to me. Hunter Biden mused to Horan about his addiction to the narcotic. Maybe this is literally the continuation and the continuum of what is going to be the thing that makes me the person that my father believes I am. Yeah, so there's more of that. You can read in the Washington Examiner. Go listen to it yourself. That's wild, but that sounds like some druggy talk, man. That sounds like some druggy talk. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. We had some laughs. We talked about some pretty dark stuff, but at the beginning, but things will turn around. Be optimistic. Be optimistic. But we have to fight for it. We have to continue to have conversations. We have to. It amazes me because I posted my TikTok, which I did post it on I posted on Instagram, I posted on Twitter, and I posted it on Facebook. And me looking at the gas prices and talking about wanting to replace Biden with Joe. And I used a song that was Run Up That Hill that's been very popular as of late because of Stranger Things. And on YouTube, I saw that there were some people commenting and they're like, how would Trump fix the gas prices and not Biden? Like, and it's not Biden's fault. And someone's like, I don't like either of them, but it's not Biden's fault. And I'm just like, how is it possible that there are recordings of a man talking about how he wants to destroy the fossil fuel industry, and there's still people who don't believe that he has anything to do with the prices of the gas? And again, I don't think he like puts on a little fake mustache and just twirls it like mischievously, like, now's my chance to raise it up to $5, Shane. No one thinks that Biden does that. But does he create a climate that makes it hard, that makes the gas prices go up? Yes, obviously. And someone's like, it has to do with economics. I'm just like, okay, don't you think there's specific economic things that have happened under Biden's watch that have contributed to high gas prices? Like, just throwing around the word economics, like, what do you think that even means? But I don't like to argue too much in comments and stuff, especially like on YouTube. You might be arguing with a 10-year-old or something crazy like that. Someone who maybe doesn't even. And someone mentioned the Obama administration, like he didn't have Biden didn't have a easy layup like Trump did, and I'm just like, I remember 2016, the day before the election, I went to the grocery store. And there was someone still talking about how much they disliked the economy and how times were still tough. And they're like, yeah, but with Bush and what he did, and I just stopped what I was doing. I turned around and I snapped at the stranger. I'm just like, it's been 8 years. And they kind of looked at me like a little crazy, like it was a little crazy. And I went back to my shopping. But I'm just like, there was just like no accountability for Democrats at all, is there? Like, and to think that the economy was just so amazing because Obama set it up to be that way, that doesn't make any sense, because people were starting to accept the reality of how things were. That the numbers of unemployment were as good as they were going to get, or specifically you're talking about the GDP, and they're like, this is just what the growth is now. And when people were talking about bringing jobs back, Obama's like, what's Trump going to do? Wave a magic wand? So when things started to actually happen and people had a positive trajectory, I'm just not gonna say, you know what, that those are Obama's policies just finally blossoming. No. So we have to keep having conversations with people. And not every internet troll is worth your time. I did reply to them a little bit, but I wasn't getting ready to write a lecture in the comment section. Because again, you could be arguing with a 12-year-old, someone who's maybe can't even vote in 2024 or 2022. Anyway, God bless you guys. Consider going to the website blacktnews.com to leave a donation if you like what you heard today. And please consider checking out different merchandise like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For, Be Better Not Better, all kinds of goodies that you guys can check out at the website. And God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.